You mentioned bullies and bullying and being bullied a fair bit in the Auckland FC game. And obviously we know Auckland FC, up until the last game of the season, they were the Blue Rider Bullies, the BRBs. No surprises then that the Warriors lost by being bullied by the Raiders. I think the Raiders are the best team the Warriors have played this season. Not a hot take, because the Raiders have beaten the Warriors in both their games. And it's not just it's not just the fact that they've beaten them twice this season. And these games are always pretty close. Like the Las Vegas one wasn't close, but I think there was a golden point game versus the Raiders last season. And there was also a good contest down in Christchurch off the top of my head. So the Raiders games are always pretty fun, ruthless, rugged, high action rugby league, and the Raiders are the best team the Warriors have played this season. Shout out to Joseph Tapine. He is awesome. And I also thought there was something happening there with the Raiders, I reckon, where the players from Auckland were awesome. Simi Sasangi playing 80 minutes for the first time this season at edge forward. He's from Auckland. Ellerslie Jr., Matthew Tomoko's from Auckland. He was putting shots on, good runs. Oda Huhu Jr., Ellerslie Jr. played first 15 at Auckland Grammar. Sebastian Chris is Australian, but he plays for the New Zealand Kiwis, so he was fired up as well. I still have Tomoko and Chris as my starting centre combination for the Kiwis, and obviously Joseph Tapine's in the middle. Simi Sasangi and Ata Mariota. Mariota's a Manurewa Jr. I think they will both keep or start representing Samoa. And shout out to Benaiah Ioelu, who made his debut for the Roosters. He is from Otara Tangaroa College product. And he played for a few junior clubs in Auckland, Howick, Mount Albert, and Ellerslie. He was recruited by the Roosters while still at Tangaroa College. And he is a very good dummy half, crafty dummy half, skillful dummy half, who has been in the Roosters system for a few years now. I predict that he will also represent Samoa. And he has an opportunity to be like a long-term dummy half for Samoa, which, as I wrote in the newsletter, this is the Kiwi-NRL vibe. This is why I put everything under the Kiwi-NRL umbrella and ease up on focusing on the New Zealand Kiwis, because in New Zealand, we have a very vibrant cultural rugby league scene. So Salisi Faketi, first debutant of this year, playing for the Roosters, Manurewa Jr., he will probably play for Tonga because he played junior footy for Tonga. And I predict he will play for Tonga. Benaiah Ioelu has already represented Samoa at a junior level. And I think he will represent Samoa. You can go through the debutants, because I reckon Bailey Bentley Harpe is probably going to stay with Fiji. Moses Leo's an option for Samoa, as well as New Zealand, obviously. And then we've got Sean Mullaney, Tyrone Thompson, and Tanner Stowers-Smith, who I all think will represent the Kiwis. Stowers-Smith is also eligible for Samoa, but I'm using me vibration ting to predict what nations they will represent. So good weekend for Samoan Rugby League, because Simi Sasangi was awesome. Mariota did his job off the bench, and Benaiah Ioelu made his debut for the Roosters. 7 Kiwi-NRL debutants this year so far. As I said, Faketi, Bentley Harpe, Leo, Mullaney, Thompson, Stowers-Smith, and Benaiah Ioelu. There was also an instance where Jacob Laban, for some reason, he took the kickoff to run it straight at Corey Horsburgh. And that was part of the juju stuff that was happening this weekend. Savilio Tamale seemed to have a one-outs battle with Dartine Welesniak. How about that one? Dylan Simi Sasangi played.
Dragons legend, Tamale.
There you go. There you go. Simi Sasangi played 80
one game
minutes.
wonder.
Sasangi played 80 minutes on his home turf. Joseph Tapine, he didn't just bully the Warriors, he bullied Mount Smart because he was giving it the crying emojis and all this stuff. Like, he just owned Mount Smart. So the Raiders, they seemed hyper aware of what was going on. And Jacob Laban doesn't play prop. Jacob Laban plays edge forward. But if you remember back to last season, he stood there as Corey Horsburgh punched him multiple times in New South Wales Cup. And as we know, Corey Horsburgh, bit of a loose unit. He's a bit of a goofball, but whatever. So then in this game, for some reason, Jacob Laban takes the hit up off the kickoff and runs it straight into Corey Horsburgh. He does have a little match review committee situation, I think, because he apparently lifted his leg, but why wouldn't you? So that all of that is to say, it was just some weird stuff happening in that game that fits into alignment with the vibration out of Mount Smart, the frequency of Mount Smart that weekend. Swing back to the Warriors. So Tapine was the big bully. He led that Raiders team. I'm not too worried about this, though, because the Warriors were without their bullies. Fisher Harris, Mitchell Barnett. And it's one thing, like I've said, Fisher Harris, Barnett, Aaron Clark. Awesome middle forward trio. It's one thing to have Aaron Clark as like the third dude of that trio. He's a feisty little bugger. He's coming up behind Barnett, behind Fisher Harris, talking his shit, doing his thing. That works very well. But when Aaron Clark is the one dude leading that, doesn't quite work out as well because, I mean, Tapine's just like, yeah, whatever, bruh. Yeah, whatever, Corey House, bruh. It's all good. But Tapine's not doing any of those antics with Fisher Harris, right? Corey Horsburgh isn't going to bully Mitchell Barnett. That's not happening. But without those two, then you can see how the Raiders were hyped up for this game and made the most of it. I think the Raiders, their style of footy is not just entertaining, and they have a hearty Kiwi-NRL crew, so I like the Raiders. But they seem to, like, stop the Warriors doing what they want to do as well. And whether it's the physicality, whether it's the speed with and without the ball, the offloading, the niggle, everything the Raiders do works well against the Warriors. No Fisher Harrison Barnett, okay, so I'm not too worried about this game. Also, what happened the last time the Warriors lost to the Raiders? They won 3 games in a row. What's the last time? When was the last loss before this game against the Storm? What happened after that? They won 5 games in a row, I think. So I view this as a very interesting learning moment. And next week, the Warriors are against the Rabbitohs, I believe, which will be, I think that's going to be a better gauge of where the Warriors are at because, again, it's in Australia. Rabbitohs are decent under Wayne Bennett. And I don't know, I just feel like the Raiders are very good at rugby league and their style matches up against the Warriors nicely. And hopefully they can get Barnett back, maybe get Fisher Harris back. Maybe Ali Leotawa isn't driven backwards with every run. That would be handy. Maybe Dylan Watene-Zelezniak actually dents the line instead of doing sweet FA. Like, that would be handy. But that's what the Raiders do to you. There was also the news about Moala Graham-Taufa. He's going to join the Rabbitohs next season. And that's a very good move. The Warriors side of me, like, I really like Moala Graham-Taufa. I'm not sure why he hasn't played more, but like, I don't know. I feel like Moala Graham-Taufa would have done a better job than Ali Leotawa coming back from injury in that first game against the Raiders. Leotawa's first game coming back from injury. Just because he's got speed, he's got zip, whereas Leotawa was a bit slow, bit clunky. And all those dudes, like Tuivasa-Sheck came back with no reserve grade. Wataneza-Lesniak came back with no reserve grade. Leotawa's back in with no reserve grade. You can see it in their NRL performances. So I don't really like that. But in theory, they are all top 17 players, so they should go back in. But whatever. Graham-Taufa, this is a great move for him. He returns to Sydney. For the Warriors' perspective, Kurt Capewell was just a safer NRL centre right now than Graham-Taufa, so that's a stopgap, plug hole. You got Leotawa, Berry doing good stuff Leotawa, Berry, and Pompey are all centres ahead of Graham-Taufa, and I think Capewell's better at plugging that hole. And that's where Graham-Taufa is. So he's got a better opportunity. All good. It's just a move that makes sense. But I'm more intrigued about the Rabbitohs side of things because the Rabbitohs, they recruited, they developed, kind of, Bailey Bentley-Harpe. Bailey Bentley-Harpe's from up north. Roosters recruited him from up north. He had a few years in their system, but then he takes a break, probably due to injury, but he reappears in the Rabbitohs system and he builds towards an NRL debut. That's the same story with Graham-Taufa. From Auckland, Maris Jr., Roosters recruit him and his twin brother, Lani. They go through the Roosters system. They return to Auckland in the pandemic. Moala keeps playing. He's played 3 seasons of New South Wales Cup with the Warriors. Then the Rabbitohs come knocking. And the Rabbitohs have a habit of coming knocking at the moment. Because over the summer, they recruited Salisi Ata-Ata from the Sharks, Otahuhu Jr. The Rabbitohs also had Devante Mihinui, Glenora Jr. from Auckland. He was in the Sea Eagles, moved to the Bulldogs over the summer. Mid-season, early in the season, he moves from Bulldogs to Rabbitohs. So the Jersey Flegg team for the Rabbitohs this week, I believe, let me double check. Devante Mihinui scored a try, and he was starting prop alongside Nazareth Tawa, Maris Jr. from Auckland. So the Rabbitohs used to have very few Kiwi-NRL juniors in their squad. Now they're building it up again. Bailey Bentley-Harpe, Saliva Havili, Salisi Ata-Ata's on the fringe. Then you got 2 starting props in the under-21 team, Nazareth Tawa and Devante Mihinui. Add Moala Graham-Taufa into there. And now the Rabbitohs are cooking with their Kiwi-NRL recruitment and development. And Moala Graham-Taufa fits right into that. I can see, if Bailey Bentley-Harpe returned to footy through the Rabbitohs system and developed into an NRL player, I can see Moala Graham-Taufa playing NRL for the Rabbitohs next season. So it's just a good move. And the Warriors, they lose a very good centre, I believe, but they've got centres ahead of him and they got centres behind it. The Warriors had a big win over the Bulldogs in New South Wales Cup and Jersey Flegg. So that was very useful. Co Kelly is a centre, but he played on the wing for the Warriors in New South Wales Cup, which was a bit tricky for him. But I view Co Kelly as the next up freaky centre prospect. And I'm also tracking Kalis Putoko from, I think he's from Tokoroa. He's doing a nice job at centre in the Jersey Flegg team. There's a lot of talent coming through the Warriors system. So there's no shortage of outside backs, specifically centres, ready to take that spot left by Moala Graham-Taufa. I'd say right now, the next best centre is Co Kelly. And he might be better than Moala Graham-Taufa, to be honest. But I do not think Co Kelly's necessarily a winger, which is where he played on the weekend. And I think Dayon Amatuano is the next up wing prospect for the Warriors. I watched him. We got that New South Wales Cup game on tele. So it was good to see that game full 80 minutes. And Dayon Amatuano is really good. Very powerful, very aggressive winger. He's got that NRL body, long, lean, fighting machine. I've talked about it every week, to be honest, but the Jason Salalilo, Toby Crosby punch off the bench is very good. They are going to be in the NRL mix next season, just grinding away in New South Wales Cup, playing through the middle. Toby Crosby keeps getting better and better and better. Jason Salalilo, the next up player from Christchurch behind Tanner Stowers-Smith. And obviously these dudes, well, Stowers-Smith's ahead of them, but you got Fatialofa, Eri Aramia Toiava, who are edge forwards, who are closer to NRL. But if I'm thinking, who are our next? Like Tom Alley's in the mix. He's playing very well for New South Wales Cup. But then you've got Jason Salalilo and Toby Crosby. And if you look at this reserve grade game from the weekend, Zion Mai'u'u, he actually came off the bench for the Bulldogs. And his spot in the squad has been taken up by Salalilo and Crosby. And I think they're just as good. And when I was thinking about it, maybe Zion Mai'u'u, the Warriors just thought he's the slowest young forward we have. So you can take a better opportunity. Maybe it just wasn't much more to it because he is the slowest middle forward they have. Toby Crosby's faster. Salalilo's faster. Keilani Going's faster. Iriaramia Toiava, edge middle versatility. Kalis Fatialofa, edge middle versatility. Tanner Stowers-Smith is more mobile than Zion Mai'u'u. So I can see how that move came about. Exactly the same way I can see how the Moala Graham-Taufa move to Rabbitohs for next season came about. They just make sense. Deep breath, just slow down, to respect the darkness. The best nugget from the Warriors weekend of footy, though, is that, of course, got to respect the Bulldogs. Bulldogs love Aotearoa, men and women. But all we hear about is the Bulldogs development system, right? How Gus Gould has come in, he's got the whole system firing, and wow, Bulldogs, they do the great job developing talent. New South Wales Cup, Jersey Flegg both lost to the Warriors in Auckland. And Bulldogs, they had a lot of players from Auckland, Aotearoa in their squads and their teams. Taniela Otakulo returning to Mount Smart. Zion Mai'u'u returning to Mount Smart. Alekola Simi Jones from St. Paul's College returning to Auckland. Whamai Toi Lalo returning to Auckland. And in their Jersey Flegg Cup team, they had Roy Tutupo, Mount Albert Grammar. He was at fullback. Genesis Arkham Sherlock starting centre. I think he's a Linwood junior. Cassius Tia from Marist starting halfback. Malakai Filippo starting prop from Mount Albert. Carwin Patterson, who was playing under 17s for the Warriors last year, was 18th man for the under 21s for the Bulldogs this year. He's from Westlake Boys High School. But both of those teams lost to the Warriors. And the Warriors won those games with an under 21 halves combination of Jet Cleary and Luke Hanson in New South Wales Cup. They won the under 21s game with an under 19 halves pairing of Jack Thompson and Maui Winitana Patalaseo. So New South Wales Cup won with two under 21 halves. The under 21s team won with two under 19 halves. I don't know. It just seems useful. Seems like something good that happened. Did get a lot of Jet Cleary viewing time. Jet Cleary, like, there's a nice difference between Jet Cleary and Luke Hanson. I think Luke Hanson's better at the rugby league skills. He's got a better kicking game. He's faster. And he's a better passer than Jet Cleary. And he's played a lot more New South Wales Cup, so he's closer to NRL footy. Jet Cleary just has a natural footy stuff to him. He's always there. He's always aggressive. Every tackle, he wants to smash you, and he's Jet Cleary. Every run, he wants to run over you, but he's Jet Cleary. He's not like a prop. He's Jet Cleary. Jet Cleary has this natural footy fizz and energy that you can see why he's a high potential half. But I think Luke Hansen has the better skills right now. And I'm like, it's not like Luke Hansen has some energy, but he doesn't have Jet Cleary energy. Jet Cleary has skills, but he hasn't done those skills for 20 New South Wales Cup games like Luke Hansen has. And also shout out to that under-21s halves combination of Winitana Patalaseo, who's from Wellington, and Jack Thompson, who's one of the young Aussie halves from the Knights. Winitana Patalaseo played the SG Ball season. Now he's getting his one of his, don't know if it's first, but it might be his first of the season, game of under-21s. And Jack Thompson was part of the under-17 Harold Matthews Cup championship team last year, but he didn't play SG Ball earlier this season and came straight back into Jersey Flegg footy for the Warriors. So if you're worrying about the Warriors' halves depth, well, what happened this weekend? Luke Metcalf, Chanel Harris-Tavita in the halves for the NRL team. Tamaita Martin was on the bench. Tanner Boyd was 18th man. So that opened up the holes in the New South Wales Cup team for the two under-21 halves to come in, Jet Cleary, Luke Hansen. They left the holes in the under-21s team for two under-19 halves to play, Jack Thompson and Winitana Patalaseo, but Jack Thompson has been playing for the last few weeks alongside Jet Cleary. So there's the whole kind of halves map situation for you.